Hello, I'm your host, Brian Callanan. Two King County council members are running against each other for the county executive seat. Their positions on many major policies are similar. So what really differentiates Girmay Zahilay and Claudia Balducci?
Working together, we will expand opportunities and make King County safe for everyone.
Council Chair Zahilay won the primary with 44% of the vote and says his high-level endorsements show he's a trusted coalition builder.
I'll bring experience and urgency to affordable housing and childcare, public safety, and climate action.
Councilmember Balducci was second in the primary with 30% of the vote and says her many years of executive leadership should give her the edge. How will the candidates deal with major cost overruns on light rail expansion in Seattle, a struggling regional homelessness authority, and a controversial crisis care center slated to open on Capitol Hill?
A lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, a lot of crime, right? So we know this is happening.
And I understand why a lot of our community members have concerns.
The candidates connect.
The Regional Homelessness Authority has not produced the results that we would like to see.
The truth is, every single jurisdiction in this county is putting money into homelessness.
The race for King County Executive, next on City Inside Out. And we are here with the two candidates for King County Executive. Claudia Balducci, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Also with me, Girmay Zahilay, thank you for being here too.
Thank you for pronouncing it right.
I do what I can. Every now and then it works. We had a coin flip before the show, and Councilmember Balducci, you'll be speaking first. Why are you running for county executive? What are your qualifications? Please keep it to a minute.
Well, again, thanks for having us here. I am a longtime public servant. I come from a family of public servants. And I believe fundamentally and have dedicated my career to the fact that when local government does our job right, we make people's lives better. I have been the mayor of the second largest city in this county, the city of Bellevue. I have been a line staff at King County and worked my way up to being a department director. I ran the Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention. I know what it takes to make government work. And that's what I want to do as King County executive. We have some really big challenges. Which I'm sure we'll talk about: public safety, transportation, housing, and how to deal with some of the challenges coming from the federal government. I believe my experience, my tenure, my record of delivery, and all the partnerships I've developed over 25 years in public service will serve the county very well as we go through this challenging time.
Thank you very much for that. Councilmember Zahilay, why are you running for this position, and what qualifies you for the job?
Thank you so much, Brian. Really appreciate the time. My name is Girmay Zahilay. I'm the chair of the county council, and I'm running for executive because I really care about this community. It is the place that I moved to when I was 3 years old as a refugee. It is the place where my wife and I are raising our 1.5-year-old baby daughter, Jazzy. We're facing so many challenges right now, from public safety to homelessness to a federal government that's attacking a lot of our communities. And I believe that King County is a powerful organization for creating change. That belief has been reinforced during my time on the council, where I have worked to make transformational investments in our behavioral health and addiction system, raising the minimum wage to put more money in low-wage workers' pockets, transforming underserved neighborhoods like Skyway to have more affordable housing and transit and community centers. And I know that there is so much more work to do. This is part of a long track record of public service that I have had since I have been in this area. And now I believe that the county executive is a next step to being able to get results and accountability and help a lot of people who are struggling in this region.
Thank you very much for that. Councilor Zahilay, let me put another question to you about the county's finances, if I could, and specifically an audit of the county's Department of Community and Human Services from a few weeks ago. Seattle Times reported on this. The department nearly doubled its grant making from $922 million in 2019-2020 to $1.8 billion in 23-24, a 95% increase. One of the big concerns here, the audit said there wasn't a lot of oversight when it comes to the recipients of these grants, which may have led to improper payments and fraud. What happened here? How did it happen during your time as a county council member? How would you fix this if you were executive?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying the results of that audit were unacceptable. As elected officials, we have a paramount duty of protecting taxpayer dollars, and this is an instance where I believe that the department lowered barriers for maybe smaller organizations to be able to participate, to get resources, and assumed more risk. And I believe that that balance was not appropriate in this situation. To me, as executive, accountability, transparency, and efficiency would be a central theme of my administration. That's why long before these audit results even came out, my team released our King County Delivers Plan, which is our plan to hold government accountable. We are calling for an Office of Internal Audit to make sure that we are not waiting for a council member to request an audit, but instead proactively auditing all of our departments periodically. I'm also calling for quarterly reports to make sure that we are disclosing to the public how their tax dollars are being spent and what the outcomes were of those expenditures, so that we're not celebrating when we launch a program or how much money we spend, but instead tracking the outcomes. Things like how many people were moved off of the street and into stable housing, things like how many overdose deaths were reversed, by what percentage did we reduce emergency room visits. These are the things that we need to track and report out regularly.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilmember Balducci, what's your take on this problem? Would you handle it differently if you got the job as executive?
So one of the things I think it's really important for the viewers to know is this audit looked at about 35 or 36 contracts in a department that is got over almost 600 contracts. And as you said, well over $1 billion under contract. So the first thing we have to do is finish the job. We don't know the full extent of the problem. And we've been talking about it at the council now for a little while. I am proposing that we complete the audit job. I'll be making a proposal in the budget that we do that. That has not gotten traction yet. I think there's a fear of it. We can't be afraid to know the truth. We have to be able to understand the problem so we can scale solutions. In this race, we're both going to say, of course, we're going to make promises. Politicians, we make promises. But who can really actually deliver accountability for not just this program, but the $10 billion a year that King County spends? I've run a major department, as I said. I have delivered a major jail multi-year reform effort that was very successful under the Department of Justice. I've been responsible for a large budget. I'm the only member of this campaign that has only candidate in this race that's been responsible for a major budget and an operation. I think I know how to deliver accountability, and that's what I'll do as county executive.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Councilmember Balducci, I want to stick with you. Another budget issue that's a little bit unsettled for the county and really local governments across the country right now, the threat of the Trump administration cutting federal funding. This is money that goes towards programs like Medicaid, housing, or other human services funds, as you know. How are you responding to the situation right now? And if you are elected, what's your plan for what could be more clashes with the Trump administration in the future?
Right. It is a huge challenge that is facing down all of local governments, especially in blue states where we are being called out and targeted. We've done a pretty good job at local and regional governments, including Sound Transit Board and Puget Sound Regional Council and other places where I have been in leadership roles, pushing back the initial wave, which was the threat to retract grants because we wouldn't sign loyalty oaths to decry DEI and what is called gender ideology by the administration. But what's coming next is bigger and harder to fight off. What's coming next is massive cuts planned to Medicaid, to SNAP, to housing vouchers.
SNAP for food stamps, et cetera. Keep going.
Yeah, for food security. So if you look at all of that, what that heralds is a potential major rise in poverty. People will lose health care, food security, and housing. So it is really important. And as soon as we saw this coming, I chair the Committee of the Whole, which is what it sounds like, all of us together, and started holding regular meetings to get the executive. We passed a proviso that I put on the budget to report back what does it mean to us and what do we do about it. We've got a pretty good idea what it means to us. It means the loss of, over 100,000 people are at risk of losing their health care, for example. What do we do about it? We have not made that plan yet. That's the first job the county executive's got to do. We have got to get the plan together. We can reprioritize some of our funding. We can ask for more funding, which is digging in our own personal pockets, asking the voters, or we can partner better to fill as much of the gap and protect people as much as possible.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilmember Zahilay, what's your assessment of this federal funding threat to King County right now, and what would you do about disputes like this with the Trump administration in the future?
First and foremost, we have to inform our community what is at stake here. Since I've been on the council, what I've been doing is organizing panels of experts to share with our community what is going to happen. When you hear $800 billion of cuts to Medicaid, that might seem like an abstract figure, but I brought together the CEO of Harborview and people who work at Western State Hospital and long-term care workers, people in the reproductive health care space, and what they told us is real dire impacts for the people of King County right here. Hospitals overflowing, people getting their reproductive health care cut, longer wait times for people in mental health crisis. We're going through some really challenging moments, and where it's possible, I believe local dollars have to backfill the things that are being attacked. That's what I worked on with our reproductive health care organizations, and we were able to get them some funding to make sure that some clinics continue their operations. And we have to strengthen our partnerships with those frontline communities and organizations to push back. Every community that is directly under attack has backed this campaign. If we're trying to protect immigrants, One America has said this is the campaign that they trust. If we're trying to protect reproductive health care, Planned Parenthood Alliance advocates, Pro-Choice Washington, they said this is the campaign that they trust. If we're trying to protect workers in the onslaught on labor standards, MLK Labor, which represents 220,000 workers, has said this is the campaign that they trust. If LGBTQ communities are under attack, every LGBTQIA organization that has endorsed in this race has backed our campaign.
Thank you. I want to keep going down this path if I can with both of you. Councilmember Zahilay, you won the August primary with 44% of the vote. Your campaign has raised about $1.18 million as of mid-October here. Tell us about your top 3 endorsements and what they say about your campaign.
Yeah, I would say the top 3 endorsements are first and foremost our governor, Bob Ferguson. I think that is indicative of the need for King County to collaborate effectively with the state. As you know, King County has a lot of limitations on our jurisdiction, and so collaborating with the state around tax reform and addressing homelessness, that's a top priority for me, and that shows how I'm going to be able to collaborate with them. Another one I would say is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. She is somebody who has been fighting back against overreach from this administration, and having the alliance of our federal delegation here is going to be critical for King County's ability to push back and have a resilient region. And finally, I'll say MLK Labor is probably the third most important one, just because it represents so many hundreds of thousands of workers in the region who are suffering in this economy, and I have an agenda for affordability that they really appreciate, and I look forward to working with them to implement that.
Thank you very much for that. Councilmember Balducci, you came in second in the August primary with 30% of the vote. Your campaign has raised $913,000 as of mid-October. Talk to us about your top 3 endorsements and what those endorsements should tell voters.
Yeah. I'm running on a platform of making government work, and I'm really proud of the endorsements that we've garnered that are from people who actually are doing the work, who are on the ground doing the work. So, for example, I've been endorsed by 19 mayors in this big county because I'm a former mayor myself, and we know how to work together. We know what it means to deliver services directly to the people. I'm very proud to have been the only candidate endorsed by any public safety leaders, in addition to folks who are doing work in prevention and response and human services. But former sheriff and former Seattle City interim city police chief Sue Rahr has endorsed my campaign. We've worked together for a long time. And then I'm also very proud of my labor endorsements. We have a very broad coalition of labor endorsers, including labor unions that represent most of the employees of King County. But I'm the only candidate that also has business organization endorsements. And so I think we have a really broad coalition of people who knows what it means to make King County work.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilmember Balducci, I want to stick with you and talk about Sound Transit, if I could. You're vice chair of the Sound Transit Board. You're fully aware the project to expand light rail, certainly in Seattle, is seriously over budget, all around the system over budget, somewhere in between $22 and $30 billion. The agency is considering a 1% property tax increase next year as a way to keep up with some of these rising costs. Is that something you support, first off? And also, is it time to start considering some cuts to the light rail expansion into West Seattle or Ballard, for example?
I thank you for the question. It has been one of my missions in life to build out this light rail system. It is something I've worked on for a very long time. I'm proud to have fought and won the battle of light rail in East King County, and now you see trains going back and forth across the bridge, and testing will be ready to open very soon. So it is a critical mission that we have to complete this system. I'm the only candidate in this race who's actually delivered anything big like this, honestly, and I have fought for it, and we've overcome one challenge after another. It's not the first challenge Sound Transit has had. So I want to say first, we can overcome this challenge, and we have to do everything. We have to look at financing. Can we use debt and finance in a different way? That is a large part of our challenge. And what can we do on the delivery side that will actually save costs? I have been the leader working with the Sound Transit Board Chair, previous Board Chair Kent Keel, to create a reform effort that is starting to look at many different ways to control costs, including little things like changing how we do contracting. You save 6 months on a contract procurement, on every contract procurement, then you start to save some real money. A bunch of smaller things. But then bigger things, to your point. I am asking the agency to take a very serious look at whether we need a second tunnel through downtown Seattle. We've planned it for a long time. It is important that we have reliability and resilience and enough capacity. But other agencies in the world and in the country are looking at the same volume of trains through one tunnel that we are thinking about putting through 2 tunnels.
Okay.
That could save billions of dollars and make a system with better connections. So little things, big things, all the things to deliver the system.
A lot going on there. Thank you for that. Councilmember Zahilay, you also serve on the Sound Transit Board. Do you support this 1% tax increase? Are you looking at cutting back the expansion of the system at all? What can you tell us?
Yes, I support the increase, and it's not going to be anywhere near enough to tackle the deficit that Sound Transit is looking at right now. So we're going to have to do everything that we can to pull every lever to design our system within the budget that we have. Sound Transit has proposed many things from small to big in order to find cost-saving measures. Things that are small that they've seen, just small design changes, eliminate an escalator here and there. Mid-size changes could be changing the way that we do construction, avoiding deep excavations. But then there are the big things that are on the docket that we have to really consider. Things like eliminating certain stations, consolidating certain stations, even looking at what my colleague is talking about, not building that second downtown tunnel. This is the time right now to take a step back and say, what is the best way we can deliver on our voter-approved promises to have a high-speed, effective, reliable transit system? This is the time that we have to make really hard decisions. What I've asked the agency to do is come back to us with all of those scenarios and options as quickly as possible, because every day of delay adds $1 million to the price tag.
Yeah, let me stick with you for a minute, because the County Council just approved a voter-approved crisis care center to be established on Capitol Hill in Seattle, as you know, at Broadway and East Union, the old Polyclinic building there. This is a place where people can come regardless of their ability to pay for mental health treatment, substance use disorders, things of that nature. The council had a meeting recently about this, and from the public hearing, I would say a lot of people are looking forward to having this facility, but you got a lot of people who are really worried about how it would impact the neighborhood. Councilmember Zahilay, this was a measure you championed back in 2023 when it was on the ballot. If you're elected as executive, what do you say to neighbors who say this plan hasn't been fully thought out to put this location here?
I'm glad you're asking about crisis care centers. This is the issue that I've worked on the most during my time on the council, because we've seen that the need is great. I believe that we should have a region where every single person has the opportunity to recover. We don't give up on people. We've also seen that in recent years, we've seen the number of overdose deaths hockey stick. It's really unacceptable. And so we need crisis care centers. And from talking to community members, there are not many people who dispute what happens within the walls of a crisis care center. People know that we need it. Where the disputes come in is, how do people get into the center and how do they leave? And I want to make sure as executive that we're addressing both sides of that equation, making sure that we're doing aggressive outreach to our communities who are on the street so they actually have a pathway to get in and we don't have as much outward visible suffering. And so that we have a good plan for how people are discharged. I'm proposing that we invest more money in post-crisis stabilization, that we have strong connections for people to exit the crisis care center into whatever their next step would be, whether that's a long-term residential mental health bed or permanent supportive housing or the emergency room, whatever it might be. They need to have that clear, individualized plan. I think that we should have done a better job of engaging that local community. I don't think that anything that they have said is outrageous or untrue. There is a concentration of services in Capitol Hill. We want to make sure that there is no public disorder, that there is safety, that there is cleanliness, and that will be a top priority for me as executive. Thank
you for that. Councilmember Balducci, what do you say to neighbors who aren't convinced the Polyclinic is the right spot? It might have a negative impact on the city of Seattle. Talk to me about this crisis care center issue.
Yeah, citing any kind of major public facility is always a very difficult thing to do. I've had a lot of experience doing this. We cited the first ever homeless shelters in East King County. When I was the mayor, that was my initiative to create homeless shelters. First ever permanent supportive housing. The light rail itself, not real popular in some places. And so you have to work through the community concerns and be open with them. I've been meeting with the community members. I took a walk with them, I want to say around midnight one night, just to see what Capitol Hill's like that time of night. It's eye-opening. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on. My main response to the community is, I believe we need to figure out how to site sensitive facilities that are absolutely needed. That is correct. Mm-hmm. But to do it in a way that we work in trust and collaboration with the community, as opposed to being worried that the neighbors are going to stop this, so let's bake it real quick and then put it out there. Okay. We should work with the communities and make things in a way, one of their complaints is solvable. Many of them are probably solvable, but one of them I'll point out is they're concerned partially with what is the rest of this very large building going to be used for. It's bigger than we need by a lot for a crisis care center. So there's fear, we're going to pack a bunch of social services, and look at the way things look across from the courthouse where we work. When you put a lot of concentration of people in one place, it can be much more challenging. So how about we work with the community? It's a proposal that I'm going to bring forward to commit to put things in the rest of that facility that are helpful to the needs of the local community, and that way it's a win-win.
Thank you very much for that. I wanted to stick with you, Councilmember Balducci, to talk about homelessness. If we go back to that issue, still a major issue in King County, has been for many years. Last year's point-in-time count showed about 17,000 people living without homes, a 26% increase from 2 years before that. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority, established in 2021, still really struggling to make a dent in that number there. Is it time to do away with the KCRHA? It just hasn't seemed like it's been able to get buy-in from surrounding cities to tackle homelessness as a regional issue.
Yeah. It's a great question. The next executive really has to find a path forward with partners, including especially the next mayor of the city of Seattle, figure out a path forward where we continue to work regionally, because it is a true statement that homelessness is a regional problem, requires regional solutions. But this specific approach of having this outside agency with federated oversight, it's not launched well. It has not met the goals we've set it. By the way, there are really good people there doing a lot of work. They are passing through money and making sure services are happening every day. What we're not doing is making progress, and we're not coordinating. I have heard the mayor say that the cities outside of Seattle don't pay in. The truth is, every single jurisdiction in this county is putting money into homelessness. Some of them are putting into KCRHA, like the city of Seattle. Some are doing it just within their own boundaries, but everybody has got homelessness coordinators and contracts for services and outreach and shelters. What we're not doing is coordinating toward a common aligned goal. And I think that is the major role of the next county executive. If that means rethinking our partnership so it's not through a separate agency like KCRHA, if it's rather through an agreement that the cities, we all just do our part and coordinate, that would work for me. It has to work for everybody, but that would be the direction I would consider with partners.
Thank you very much for that. Councilmember Zahilay, would you abolish the KCRHA? Some thoughts on that and how you would approach homelessness if you're elected?
This is the crisis of our region. Too many people are living outside. I believe in a King County where everybody has a roof over their heads and the services that they need to make a recovery, and that is just not happening right now. I believe that homelessness is a regional problem requiring a regional solution, and it's also true that the Regional Homelessness Authority has not produced the results that we would like to see. I think there are a number of things going on there. I believe there's a scale issue, I believe there's a structure issue, and I believe there's an accountability issue. On the scale front, what I always say is demand for housing and services always far outpaces the supply. And so we need to build more permanent supportive housing, more emergency housing like tiny house villages, more low-income housing for people who can't afford to live in a home. And that is going to require progressive taxation. It's going to require more revenue. And that is not the issue that we're dealing with when it comes to the Regional Homelessness Authority. With the Homelessness Authority, we need our regional partners to put money into the system. We need to have a more stable revenue source for the system. We need better decision making, but none of those structural changes can happen without the accountability piece. You can't go around and ask our regional partners to contribute when they've lost trust in the entity. So I believe that new leadership is a time for a reset. We should ask our neighbors, what would it require for you to have buy-in in this system? How do we implement the changes that are needed? And how do we effectively move forward with the coordination and the scale that's needed to tackle this problem?
Thank you for that. We're almost at last statement time, but I wonder, can you take 30 seconds? I feel like we've hit some of the big topics, but is there something we haven't talked about, maybe hasn't hit the big headlines, that's important to your campaign? Is there anything you can think of, Councilmember Zahilay?
I think just the need for collaboration is more important than ever. This is a time when no individual, no level of government is going to be able to solve these problems on his own, her own, or its own. And this is a time to strengthen our coordination, our collaboration, whether it's on homelessness or public safety or responding to the federal government. And in addition to being the CEO of county government, the next executive is the leader of the region, the convener, and that is the part of the job that I'm going to take most seriously as well.
Thank you. 30 seconds, an issue we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I don't think we actually talked directly about public safety.
Okay.
And that is something that I hear about a lot from constituents here and throughout the region. I am a former public safety official myself. I have deep relationships and knowledge of the system. We need to be moving in a direction that makes people feel safe. So we talked about the crisis care centers. We're lacking a space where people who are in crisis on the streets but are not in a place to say, yep, I'm ready for help. Not voluntarily ready to go in, but they're going to go to jail if they don't, if they get arrested, and they're going to go to Harborview if they're too sick. How about a third place that it is a diversion from jail that helps people off the street, slows the revolving door? I've been a consistent voice on public safety. A former director of the jails, as I said. My colleague ran his original campaign on shutting down the juvenile detention facility and defunding the police. He's changed his position in this race, but I'm the consistent voice on public safety, and I think the voters should know that.
Fair enough. It's time for a final statement. You first, Councilmember Balducci. Why are you the right person for the job? Tell the voters.
Thanks very much. We hear the question a lot. What's the difference here, really? You seem to share a lot of the same views, a lot of the same values. I think what voters should be asking is, do we mean what we say? Are we consistent? Are we able to deliver what we promise? And can we manage this big, multifaceted county that has got real challenges? I talked a little bit about meaning what I say on public safety. Can we deliver what we promise? Let's take housing. I've worked on a plan, 44,000 units of affordable housing. We did it with partners and cities and experts over a year with an associated implementation plan. We know we can do it. My colleague has proposed borrowing $1 billion to build affordable housing. The report that came back and was not daylit for several months showed that provides zero housing. We don't have time to be figuring it out. We've got to do what works. And then finally, who can run this big county? I'm the only candidate with executive experience. I've been the chair of the council for 3 years. It's not the same thing on the county council. You need somebody who knows how to run a big executive operation.
You get the last word.
Thank you so much, Brian, for the time today. I believe that all of our residents and voters have seen what is at stake in this race right now. We have public safety issues, a homelessness crisis, an economy that is failing to meet the moment for people who can't afford their basic needs, a federal administration that's continuing to attack our communities. And I believe that the King County Executive is a very important position for solving problems and getting results. While my colleague continues to look over her shoulder and attack me, I understand that this is a race that is bigger than any one of us. It is bigger than any one level of government. It's going to be how effectively can the next executive collaborate to solve these problems? I listed for you before who has entrusted this campaign over any other campaign in solving problems. We're going to have to work with the state to do the reforms that are needed to solve homelessness, tax reform, the public safety issues, and we have the most endorsements of the governor, the attorney general, more state-level elected officials than any other candidate. If we're going to have to protect our region from the federal government, we have both Pramila Jayapal and Adam Smith on board saying they're going to work with this campaign. If we're going to have to work with the council in order to solve our budget issues, and which controls a lot of our policy agenda, I'm the only candidate that's endorsed by any current King County council members. And so I don't elect me, elect us and our ability to work together to solve problems. Thank you so much.
Thank you both for this, and we will be right back.
What are people saying online about the race for King County Executive? One person writes, Zahilay's time will come, but for now, he should stay on as backup quarterback and watch and learn as much as he can. Balducci has 20 years' experience on him. Let's give her the reins. Another says, Girmay is really down to earth, well-grounded, and has a pragmatic approach to issues facing King County, including ensuring accountability. We'd like to know what you think. Send us an email at contact@seattle.gov or find us on social media.
Great to get that input. Also great to be with both of our candidates here for King County Executive. We will see you next time on City Inside Out.